So I invited you here today because I've been so inspired by what you've done with your academic life coaching business in the time that I've known you, which is almost like 3 years now.
Is it that long? Yeah.
I think it might be that long. My goodness, like 2.5. And so I would love to have you share with everyone what was happening in your business when you first reached out to me to join the training. Can you remember back then?
Yeah, it's very clear in my mind. So I was certified as a life coach and then became certified as an academic life coach through a different program, really focused on the big skills of what kids are struggling with, the life skills. But what continually surprised me, or where I kept stumbling, is when parents would call their pain points, what they're willing to pay for, what was most urgent in them, really came down to more tactical skills. My son's not getting his homework in. My kid I can't get him off the screen. My kid has no organizational skills or knows how to study or whatever. Those were what parents were really, truly very frightened about and losing sleep about. And it wasn't until we were able to get through those sorts of situations and come up with some routines and skills for the student that then you could move on to some of the bigger life skills. That is the immediate roadblock. And that's what your program helped me address, is those roadblocks.
Awesome. And did you start with the art of inspiring students to study strategically then? Is that how you dove into my work? I don't even remember now. Or did you dive straight into you dove straight into the full year, I think.
I did. I dove into your straight program because you were still developing your online program at the time. So we were the first ones to go through.
Right. That's right. Awesome. So I do want to talk a little bit about what your experience in the program was for those who are considering joining us in this next upcoming one. But before we do that, I would love to just hear, so that's where you were about 3 years ago. Oh, and how many clients did you have back then, by the way?
It wasn't a steady flow, but I would say I would have 4 clients or so.
Okay.
That was kind of my run rate, but obviously it was bumping around.
Yeah.
And getting clients was a major undertaking.
And that's, I think, one of the reasons why you also sought out my program. You wanted more skills to address some of those issues with getting homework turned in and studying, but you also wanted to figure out, like, how do I find clients?
Right. Effortlessly. That was my goal. Because I really, when I went into this, what I knew is I really wanted to work with students and parents and help them. The part that I somewhat underestimated is what it takes to build a business to have those parents and students. And my true love is really more about working with the students and the parents and addressing those needs. So the more that I could make building the business and having a steady stream of clients effortlessly, the more I get to do what I love.
Nice.
That's the good part.
Yes. We can all
That's the icing on the cake.
And so where are you now with all of that? How many clients do you have? How has your business morphed? What does it look like now? And is it effortless?
It's definitely becoming more and more effortless. There's still, obviously, I'm learning you still have to do marketing. You still have to put yourself out there, but that's also a way to reach people and help people. So my whole mindset about why I market has really changed. Now it's about being able to share knowledge and provide value to people in a larger scale, if you will. And usually then there are people who say, that sounds good, that fits me. I'd like to talk to you one-on-one about helping my student, about helping my kid. It's been a mind shift in how I view marketing and sales now. So it is more effortlessly because I'm viewing it more as teaching, and then that teaching brings in clients. So where I'm at is I definitely have a steady stream of students, and I'm actually very embroiled now with some local high schools, so I'm doing both at the school, teaching enrichment programs at a couple of different schools, and then having private clients. And I love the mixture because it allows me to sort of reach broader audiences, but also work one-on-one and go deep with some clients.
Nice. Cool. That's what has been inspiring to me about working with you, because in our one-on-one coaching sessions, you were just trying to figure out how to get started in some of those high schools. And it sounds like you're fully embedded now and really feeling like you're being of service to a great many people as a result.
Well,
Right.
And I love, I was going to say, and I love hearing that there are high schools out there who are looking to the root of the problem. Because I can't tell you how many people have contacted me and said, well, do you teach study skills, or can you help with this? And that's not part of my business, but so many students make it through junior high But as soon as they hit high school, they find it's too hard to skate by on what they had been doing. I'd love to hear that high schools are bringing you in to get to the root of the problem. That's wonderful.
And I am just beyond thrilled, just to shout out to one of our local high schools, that in fact they have realized that it's such a huge step from junior high, like you mentioned, Megan, to high school. This happens to be a college prep high school, that they are actually offering enrichment programs for their incoming freshmen this summer, where one of the pillars is going to be academic skills and studying skills and how to use technology, because the school actually provides Surface Pros to their students.
Mm-hmm.
So how to appropriately use technology within the classroom, but also in studying. And so they're trying to get ahead of that curve, and they've asked me to teach the academic skill side of that as one of the pillars. And I just think it's so forward thinking about genuinely trying to help their students be successful in high school.
What's a favorite thing that you either are planning on teaching? Because I think you've taught something similar recently, but what's your favorite part about teaching these enrichment programs?
My favorite part is watching students sort of, number one, realizing just their shoulders relax when they realize they're not broken. And I've had them say that more and more, is when, number one, I spend a lot of time, as you've taught us, explaining the teenage brain, and just from research and how it's just really what they're going through. They literally don't have the capabilities coded in their prefrontal cortex yet. And how they could, the analogy I always use is it's like a remote control. The adults have the remote control and can switch channels very quickly and bark out all sorts of stuff. But as a teenager, you're missing that remote control. It's not fully functioning. You could absolutely still turn a TV on without a remote control. You have to find different ways to do it. And for students, it's finding those different ways that work for them and meet them where they are developmentally. Mm-hmm. And I just watch them sort of relax into it, like, I'm smart, I'm not broken, because intellectually they believe they should be able to do this. Yeah. They are fully functioning, can hold very articulate conversations with us as adults, and we forget that their brain is not fully baked yet. And when they realize that, that's the favorite part. And then when they figure out that some of these tools, when they figure out like how to record their homework and know what you call the setup routine in your program, and how it's not this huge, ugly thing, and what a difference it makes in their stress levels. It's magic. It's just, I got another text last night with a student like, it's working so well, I haven't missed an assignment, and it's easy.
Yeah.
And that's the payback for me. That's where I get my joy.
I love that point about not being broken. I think I have one of my Wednesday videos on my blog about that. And it's actually one of the things that I often say during my enrollment conversations with new clients when I'm talking to the student. It's like, wow, they're telling me with shame all of these problems that they're experiencing, that their parents have maybe not purposefully made them feel ashamed about, but nonetheless, that happens when we feel like we're not meeting the expectations of the adults around us. And I do think it's one of the biggest and most important parts of our work is to help them know you are so not broken. It's just that there are a few additional skills that you need because we have a school system that is not designed for the brain that you happen to have.
At this point.
At this point, right. And it will grow. Yeah. Yeah, so you mentioned the setup routine, which is something that I teach in the art of inspiring students to study strategically. So are you finding that there's a nice mix of both the tools that I taught as well as the tools that you have brought in and found from other resources?
Yes, and the beauty of working one-on-one with a student is you're almost like a concierge. What you're doing is you are really meeting them where they're at. And so you have a whole toolbox of skills that you can offer up, and then it becomes sort of the beauty is helping them define what's going to work for them and doing a trial and error, sort of an experiment. Much like you, I record everything on a Google Docs, and we just always are checking in to see what's working for them and how they want to tweak it. And so I use a lot of your skill sets. I've brought in my own. I brought in from the life coaching training, plus my independent research, and I've added some assessments that I also can do. Such as the strong assessment on interest inventories and things.
Yeah, and I'd love for you to talk a bit more about those assessments. And part of the reason why I'd love for you to talk about them is it's really exciting for me as more and more coaches come in and through my program that there are opportunities for collaboration with you guys after you've come through the program. And this is an area, I don't do assessments with my clients, but I feel like this is a way that you and I can collaborate in the future, because I might need or want some assessments done to help me with my coaching. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you feel like the assessment process brings and how you incorporate it into your actual academic coaching.
Okay. So I offer 3 different assessments. I do the Myers-Briggs. I also do the Strong Interest Inventory, which is another assessment by the same people who do Myers-Briggs, and I do use science. And each of them, again, I talk to the student and find out what they're doing. The reason I brought in the assessments, Gretchen, is what I realized, especially as I was working with some of the college students, when I'd say, so what's your major? And they'd go through it and I'd say, and what sort of brought you to this major? Often what I heard is things like, I took this really good class and the teacher inspired me, therefore I'm a psych major. And I'm like, that's great. So what are you going to do with psych? I'm not quite sure. And so what I realized is that there wasn't a real mechanism for helping students sort of figure out different majors that they want to investigate and then select one. It was sort of happenstance. It happened. And I also was receiving several clients who were changing majors and consequently extending how long they were in college. I also saw it in my high school students when they were applying to colleges, when I'd say, so great, you're applying to these colleges, what do you hope to study? I have no idea, right? And so I usually lead with the Strong Interest Inventory, and if the student's up for it, I usually pair that with the Myers-Briggs because their reports are actually combined, which is a very powerful tool. But what the Strong does is it takes your current interests and it looks at different levels, but it allows you to look at how your interests could parlay into different occupations. And it uses ONET, which is a very powerful database. So it gives you different occupations, different majors and stuff that align to your interests, and it becomes a jumping board for them to do further research, as well as for us to have meaningful conversations about what are the prospects for this. And ONET is a wonderful database for students. They love it because they love data, and it talks about job growth, what skills are required, what majors are there, what is the projected growth in the next 5 to 10 years for this particular job function. So now we're putting a framework of helping students walk through this what I want to be when I grow up journey.
Awesome.
And how I use it in my program is both, I often get students who just want that. So I just this week did an assessment for someone who's home from spring break, who's is on their 3rd major and is still not sure that's the right one. So we just went through this. So he's already in college. It was actually a referral from one of your other coaches who is doing coaching with that. And now they have this information that he could continue to sort of investigate. In my own programs, I usually use it for juniors and beyond. It's not really appropriate for anyone younger in that, but it becomes, after we get through some of these routines and some of these roadblocks, it becomes the attachment of why am I going to school and what am I learning for? And that attachment is very helpful for a lot of students.
Very motivating, right? To have a clearer image of what you are going into.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I really, really love that you're doing this. And it's been such an honor, really, to be able to kind of witness you from those early days where you're like, I know I'm good at this, but to just watching your confidence grow and then watching you really find the right tools to be a really unique, or to have a unique offering in our field. Because I also know you have an expertise with working with young adults too, as well as college grads, but also people who are transitioning into their first jobs, right?
Right. I do have several clients now who are have either graduated or in a job they dislike and are trying to what now? And so I'm working with them, but I also am working with some people who are about ready to graduate to make sure as they're looking for jobs, they're looking in the right areas that align with their interests.
Can you tell us a story? It's always fun to hear client stories, like a story of either someone who's had some results that are favorite results for you to help support kids getting. And I ask partially because I know listeners are parents out there and might be wondering, is Debbie a good fit for my student? And so it'd be great to hear a story.
Yeah. One that comes to mind right away is a gentleman who came to me because he's on his third attempt at college.
Wow.
And again, an amazing young man. And he was sort of feeling like, I'm not good at college, I'm not smart enough, all of those I'm nots. And once we've started putting together, his homework, and we've been doing block scheduling, and he also works part-time in addition to going to college and stuff, all of a sudden the confidence in, he even said to me this week, he goes, I'm smart, I can do college, I am getting great grades. And I never in my wildest dreams ever thought I would feel that way about college. And so we've come a long ways, and he's actually onto some very sophisticated ways that he's managing his academics now, of pre-reading before a course and then reviewing. I teach this tool called 10-24/7, doing 10-24/7 and reviewing so that he's not waiting to study for tests when tests come up, even if it's 5 days before a test. He is literally studying as he goes along. And all of a sudden, lectures are becoming alive to him. They're not boring. So we worked on that, but his parents had actually gone and gotten a career counselor for him because, again, trying to figure out what was the right major for this gentleman. And he went through some assessments, and he went through that, but still wasn't really settled on that. He had direction, but wasn't. So we've now, because I do the same assessments, we continue to work on that in addition to his academic skills. So he wants to be a rad tech. We're looking at rad tech programs that are both 4 years and 2-year certificates. We have a worksheet where he's tracking this, and we're chunking it out so that it's not overwhelming. So while he's doing school, he's also building his path. Like, he knows he needs to have shadow hours. So we're looking at where he can get shadow hours. So every week we're making progress on his future. And it just feels so wonderful every time I meet with him to see his progress. But at the end, he just says, thank you for being my partner in life, for helping me move forward. And it brings such joy and tears to me because this is such a young man who's going to make an impact on this world. He has so much to offer. And because of some difficulties getting started without right tools, he was ready to give up. And I look so forward to every time I get to talk to this guy.
Beautiful story. So for those who are listening to you and also hearing about the relationship that we've had over the last few years as I've trained you and then now as your colleague, what would you say are the ways that my anti-boring approach coach training program helps support you in this journey from just about 4 clients and a lot of effort to the perfect clients for you and a lot less effort?
Yeah, great question. I think your tools that you lay out, I did not come from a teaching background. I came from a corporate background. So my background was I was hiring new college grads and saw that they were not prepared when they hit the real world, even though they had degrees. They did not have a lot of the skill sets for managing the working world. And that was sort of my story of why I wanted to get back in my encore career of working with students. But what you gave me through your training was very tangible skills that I could offer clients and ways to approach the student in a non-scary way to help them develop and customize those. And I love that. The setup routine, always Pomodoro gets high reviews, and how you use that. The hone it till you own it note-taking. Just even your videos of explaining the brain and the 4 senses of studying. All of that stuff really, really resonates with the kids and is so tangible for them to put their arms around and start incorporating into their life. So that's been wonderful. The other thing that I really took away, and again, I've modified, but I continue to use, is the Google Docs. The way to share this information and document it with the students so there's accountability. Accountability is critical in everything I do with the students. So text messaging, the Google Docs, the fact that the parents can look and see a summary of the notes, and yet the student clearly has the option to say, don't put that in the notes, so that they could be completely honest with me and we could get down to the root cause of the issues. All of that is amazing. That's all framework I learned through you, Gretchen. Thank you for that. It's critical.
I'm so glad to hear that. And what about the marketing and some of the one-on-one coaching that we did together? Because I know that we often weren't tackling the tools in that time as much as we were tackling your own mindset and your own overwhelm.
Right. Again, and keep in mind, ideally what I'd like to do is just have people line up outside my door so I can coach. That's not reality. And so I think At least I haven't figured out how to do it anyway. And so what you did in our one-on-one is I firmly believe everyone should have their own coach. And so you pushed me on my limits. You pushed me to go down, look at different people and set up one-on-ones and to get to put myself out there. When my real comfort space and my real love was being on the coaching side, you pushed me to, even though I have my MBA, you pushed me to, you have these skills, now go use them, and you held me accountable to do that. And you also encouraged me to take the big risk, which was reaching out to my first high school, where I brought in screenagers, and that has paid off in big dividends, both in sort of the impact we're having on the community, but also in getting me out in front of parents and students.
That was a big deal, you doing the showing of that. For people who don't know, Screenagers is a documentary that tackles, will you say like a couple sentences about it?
Yeah, so Screenagers is all about how technology is really affecting our teenagers, both in a positive and a negative way. And it's a documentary done by a woman who literally followed the path of getting her daughter a smartphone. And she's a Stanford trained MD, and started making a documentary as she studied all the impacts of this. And includes science-based as well as interviewing students. And it resonates with students. It absolutely resonates with parents and terrifies parents.
Yeah. And so Debbie, you then organized a screening of this at one of the local high schools that you now have a relationship with. And so that was wonderful.
And I've been called in, and I've actually done it numerous times now. So this high school is showing it to all of their incoming freshmen the first month, and is continuing the conversation in the classroom. And we've done workshops with parents following up on that. And I've also been called into other organizations who have heard about this and now sort of facilitate the screening, because it's an important conversation that parents and students need to be having on a routine basis.
So I have one more question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Megan for our lightning round at the end. But I'm curious, because there are other really wonderful academic life coaches out there who also train folks to start their own businesses. And so I may not be, my program that's coming up in the end of April may not be the best fit for everyone. And I'd be curious to hear you talk a little bit about, what do you think makes me and my program special, so that the folks who are listening can see if that's something that that appeals to them?
I am certified through another academic program as well. I think it's really listening to, who do you want to serve? I mean, people call me now because I'm an academic coach who are interested, and they find me and they call me. And so the advice I always tell them is, think about, what is it that you really want to do? What is it that what is your service that you want to do? How do you want to help students? And listen, go and talk to those people and listen to what their pain is. What is it that is keeping them awake at night, both from a parent's and also a student perspective? What I found in doing that is, what's keeping them awake at night are the skill sets that you teach around. It's the, how do I manage my crazy academic life and still keep a social life for the students and still have fun? For the parents, it's, how do I go back, as one mom said, to being the cookie baking mom? I'm tired of being their constant keeper and their personal assistant, and I'm worried about school and they're not, is the feeling. If those are the pain points, that's what you address. If that's the people you want to work with, and you're hearing that sort of conversation, that's where I think your program hits it spot on, Gretchen. If instead what you want to do is sort of work with, the larger skills, which is sort of like, what is my mission in life and stuff like that, then other programs really focus on that. They're not as tactical. They're much more in the true life coaching realm, where yours is a very hands-on, let me help you today, so that you can get to a position where you could start thinking about the bigger ideas.
Yeah, and also just personality-wise. I mean, I think sometimes my enthusiasm might be a bit much for certain people. So, like, what's it like being trained, like in a group training with me?
I love the energy, but again, it is definitely do your homework. Go and look at the programs. There's videos out there. You want it to be a fit. I absolutely love your energy, but I'm an extrovert as well, so there you go. I feed off of that, and it helps me think through stuff. But there's no right or wrong answer. It's just truly looking at, and if you look at it from building a business, Really think about what are your clients willing to pay for, given they have limited budgets. And my personal experience is what parents want to pay for is having their kids get to a position where they're less stressed and being more successful in school. Mm-hmm. And that usually comes down to the very tangible skills that your program offers.